problem that we had in our previous kitchen was really a space issue. We had space, but it was not an effective use of space. The cabinetry was coming apart. The flow itself wasn't really great. And also within the cabinets, I wasn't able to store different appliances and things I had.
So we had cabinets that stopped halfway through. It looked kind of stunted. And then obviously it just didn't work as well for us.
It didn't work. It also always felt very, very dark.
So we were driving by in our neighborhood and we saw that there's this company called Remodeling Journey doing some work with one of our neighbors. And then I get home and there is a little thing hanging from our doorknob that said that, hey, we are working on your neighbor's house and there might be some noise and some stuff going on and we apologize for the inconvenience. And like they had a Starbucks gift card attached to that. And I just thought that was a really nice, classy touch. And they did it with all the neighbors who were around that house. So kind of felt like they cared about it and it was very subtle, but
it was very thoughtful.
Yeah, very thoughtful. I searched up on internet and it turned out that every time on search functions also they will come up high and they had really good reviews. So finally I contacted them and Justin came over, and when I talked to him I was sold because he was, again, like Justin, he was very thorough, he was very organized. He went over everything. He wasn't rushing through the process. He spent, I think, 5 hours with us that first time we were, and then gave us a quote. So the whole process in itself was great, but I think it just there were certain things that right off the bat we felt like they were great.
And one thing we also noticed that was different about Remodeling Journey from other contractors is when he was reaching out to all the different, he reached out to 4 or 5 people, and we heard back from Justin and from Remodeling Journey
the next morning.
We had, an appointment set up and we were ready to move forward. Whereas I remember we had already signed with Justin, and it was like maybe 2 weeks after we had met with him before we even heard back from another contractor to see, if we were interested. So we really appreciated that right away. They were very communicative. They scheduled things right away, made appointments, and we were able to move without having to wait for a response right away. We, I think, had an idea, not necessarily of what we wanted the space to look like, but how we wanted it to feel and how we wanted it to function. But what was really important to us was space that we could fit, a lot of things, all of your kitchen things. We wanted it to function really well, like the workspace to flow very well. And I think the most important thing is that we wanted it to feel like an extension of our home. We didn't want it to feel like a brand new kitchen, even though
that doesn't match our
it is.
Home.
Yeah. We wanted it to feel like it went with the rest of our home, and we wanted it to feel like us.
Yeah, and Laura had lots of picture boards from HGTV that she shared with Andrea when we first started. I can't stress this enough that in terms of customization, I think that they customized us to the nth degree, because they were like, where do you listen to music? Where do you sit? Where do you like to relax? And everything so that they could incorporate our daily lifestyle into the kitchen, and also make sure that the kitchen, even though it's brand new, didn't look like out of place in our house.
Another thing that I really appreciated about the design process in general is that they took things that might have seemed kind of small to other people, but ended up being a really big deal to us. For instance, we have just this device that holds like our family calendar that we said we really want it, but we don't want it to be super visible. So they were able to incorporate that into the design. I have a steam oven that had been in our old kitchen just sitting on the countertop, and I said, it's ugly, but I love it. And I use it all the time, but I don't want to see it. And so they were able to design and build a special place to keep it that, you know, can pull it out, so I can pull it out and use it and then put it away. So I think that they really listened to things that were important to us and incorporated it into the design in a way that was not only functional but beautiful as well. That actually being able to see the renderings and the design
and share it with almost everyone,
and share it with everybody,
because
yes,
they wanted to see how your kitchen's gonna look like, because again, like it's like we have friends, we have family, they wanted to know how everything's going to turn out.
Right. And it made a really big difference for us, I think, going through the process. It's not an easy process to go through that level of construction, and to know that that's the end result was really helpful. And I think too, as far as the design goes, to be able to almost feel like you're walking through your kitchen, your new kitchen, without doing it, and seeing, you know, it's one thing to see a blueprint, or it's one thing to see like a drawing, but it's another thing with at least the video, was to be able to feel like you're walking through it and see actually how the space lays out.
Yeah.
That was a really big thing. I think we felt very comfortable communicating with the team. We were joking earlier that I think we went in thinking we're like a medium level of communication, and found out we were probably a much higher level of communication than we thought we would be.
And they kept up with it.
And they kept up with it perfectly. And so to be able to, you know, plan what's happening with the construction and what our kids have going on and what you've got going on, and to manage the schedule, ended up requiring a pretty high level of communication just to be able to plan everything. And they totally delivered on that. They always answered all of our questions.
Most of the time they would proactively communicate. So they just kept up with the level of communication that they promised that they would. And so it was helpful, very helpful to have that. So I wouldn't say that there were major issues at all. I would say there are minor bumps along the way in over 2 months that we had the construction and everything. And those were all handled very professionally and very punctually and on time.
We did use the JobTread app. I think we appreciated it mostly at first. It was really nice to see all the different photos that they were taking along the way. It was nice to see the schedule of who, you know, was coming and when. Yeah, so I think we used it.
And also sometimes I forget about the timeline, right? Like next week, what is happening? Is plumbing happening next week, or drywall happening the week after? So there's a lot of moving parts when you're doing a project like this. So it's good to see when things are actually happening. That way I'm not constantly have to call them and ask, because the way they communicate with each other, there were times where I think, you know, there were 3 subcontractors working all during the same week. And they had to figure out, each one of them had to figure out, it was kind of staggered, and each one of them had to figure out when they could come so that the other one is done, and then they could come. But they coordinated it so well. We never had to wait for them, and they didn't show up or anything like that. And if there was a delay, they would always give us a timeline of when that's going to get fixed. I would say the communication was outstanding.
Absolutely. Another thing that we really appreciated was the contractor parade that they had right at the very beginning of the construction, actually before it began. And all of the contractors came in. We had a chance to meet them, so we knew who was going to be in our home.
They followed the schedule to the T. If there was delay in something that happened, they made it up somewhere else. And eventually, obviously, for us at least, they ended before the time that they committed to. So that was a big deal for us. In terms of the investment, I were very, very, very accurate, because if they did and again, we made changes along the way, and if there were changes that did have substantial financial impact, they let us know what it would cost. They were very transparent, honest about it.
We knew going into this project that it was something that was going to make us feel displaced. That's why we waited for almost 13 years. We waited for 13 years to do a remodel because we knew that it was going to be a really big project. But they did absolutely everything that they could to make it the best experience possible, even while we were going through that. For me, I think functionality was such a big thing that's what I really, really appreciate. I love my vent hood. What I appreciate most, and this goes back to the design question, is the feeling. It feels like us. It feels like our home. It doesn't.
I feel like it's as customized as it possibly could be, and they executed it perfectly. So you have to make sure that you're dealing with the right people, and turns out that Justin, Adria, and their whole team, including Cody, Brian, everyone, they were just outstanding, and that helped Rachel. That helped the process a lot.
We knew in advance what to expect and when to expect it. And those things were consistently met as well, so we had no reason to believe it would be otherwise, which then caused, I think, as little stress as possible.
Because they always made sure to listen to us. They're great listeners. I was just telling both Justin and Adria, they used to be school teachers, and they bring that level of, like, the whole classroom level of authenticity to their work. So they basically do their contracting work with that same due diligence, making sure with the same sincerity, making sure that they're honest, communicative. They were just really nice people to work with in general, and that makes a lot of difference. They're organized. They give us a timeline. They stuck to it. They give us a quote, an estimate. They stuck to it. Their design process was seamless. The 3D renderings, the drawing boards, the job thread, everything seemed like a whole package. It wasn't like I had to talk to the subcontractor, figure out on their behalf what they're doing. They dealt with problems that arose. So I just, in general, I would like to say that they committed to something. They said they're going to do it, and they did it better than I imagined that they could.
And I think I would just like to say too that I think it made a real difference for us to work with really honest people with a high level of integrity. We could tell that they were good people doing good work.